Welcome to the AgCulture Podcast, where we share insights about the future of agriculture. Each week, we dive into the stories, technology, and ideas shaping a sustainable and profitable future for farms and rural communities alike. I'm Paul Windemuller, host of the AgCulture Podcast, and today we're going to Hawaii. Well, not literally, but in today's interview, we'll be talking with Will Lydgate, CEO of Lydgate Farms in beautiful tropical Hawaii. Now, you might be wondering why we're talking to somebody farming in Hawaii. Well, I think this is a great example of a niche market and a niche opportunity in agriculture. And Will has really excelled at it and really taking it to global heights. He's won multiple awards, and we're going to be talking about what he's doing and what products he's focusing on, mainly chocolate. That's right. We're going to be talking about cacao, and this is the only state in the U.S. that can grow cacao. And Will has capitalized on that. He's created a business around that, both with ecotourism as well as making a name for himself with beautiful, fine chocolates. I found Will's story fascinating and what they're doing on their farm fascinating. I can't wait to go visit when I someday get to Hawaii. But for now, this interview with Will will have to do. It was great. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed learning about a new sector of agriculture that I haven't really explored before, and I'm sure you will enjoy it as well. So please listen up to this episode with Will Lydgate. Well, today's episode, we have Will Lydgate from Hawaii coming to us to talk about the cacao business in Hawaii, as well as your farm, Lydgate Farms, business that encompasses multiple enterprises that we've discussed before turning on the camera here. Why don't you get started, Will, with your story, your backstory of your farm and yourself. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we're going to get into cacao in Hawaii and the uniqueness of that.
Yeah, and it's cacao, not cows. People say, "Oh, you have a cow farm?" No, cacao. So my story, my great-great-grandfather came to the Hawaiian Kingdom in 1865, and he was an engineer and a millwright and actually got into the burgeoning sugarcane industry at that time on the Big Island, and he introduced a lot of new practices there. He was the first person to fallow fields with a cover crop, and he used the flumes to move the cane because they got a lot of water on there in the Hamakua coast. And he died of tuberculosis. Unfortunately, my great-grandfather picked it up. That was the era before the big treaties, before sugar made a lot of money. So it wasn't that time, and they got out of it. Great-grandfather was the botanical assistant for the kingdom's chief botanist and doctor, who was the man that brought Theobroma cacao, the chocolate tree, cocoa cacao, from the Philippines, where it had been brought from Mexico in the galleon trade. And so great-grandfather was famous for preserving and conserving rare plants. He worked at the site where the cacao was. He also conserved a number of Hawaiian endemic Hawaiian plants. And so there's this botanical history. I was born, actually, my dad had settled in California, and I was born in the Bay Area. And then I moved back here when I was 16, and kind of wide-eyed and hearing all these incredible stories about torch fishing and hunting and, this Hawaiian culture stuff. We'd learned to body surface kids. And so came back here and was kind of reintroduced to the family that was here and the culture. And on my mom's side's farmers from Iowa, going back. At some point they just can't count anymore. It's probably 7-8 generations. I think some of them were Germans. They came over from the first boats, but just farmers in Iowa. Yeah, going back 7-8 generations. Great grandfather had a early seed corn company during World War II called Hibbs Hectares, and they had I think it was the A75 was their big one. And every winter, great grandpa used to count out by hand 10,000 kernels in every bag. And he would sit there, and apparently he was a very grumpy man. I can understand why.
I think I would be too.
Yeah. And then I think Hibbs Hectares ended up getting purchased by Mycogen, which was then purchased by Pioneer. So in some old contract, I think I get a discount on bags of seed corn from Mycogen, but I'm not sure that counts for anything.
Probably not a lot of that where you are today.
Anyway, but so growing up, I was I'd heard about all this stuff, and I would go visit the farm in Iowa, and I would come here and see what was left of the sugarcane industry, and it was kind of in my blood, so to speak. But I became a musician. I went to music school, learned how to play bass, toured, learned how to perform. And then, all the while we had a little small family plot, like more of a homestead. We planted some cacao trees in 2002. And I remember when those pods came out, we had the first cacao pods. I mean, they're crazy. They look like a little squash. And this is like early internet. So nobody knew anything. And really still, there's very bad information on the internet for cacao. Even the literature, the white papers are pretty poor. So you kind of just got to know somebody. If you want to figure out how to do it, but we're like, how do you make chocolate? And then, one thing led to another. I leased a farm next to us, just a little more size so we could get more cacao trees in the ground. In 2014, that was another like 38 acres. We had 8.5, it was 38. So, and these are tree crops, and it's all hand harvested. And then in 2016, I took over from my family. Finally, I was in charge full time. And, my dad was one of these guys who could work, 70, 80 hours a week and was kind of just better at everything than everybody. So he never really cultivated a strong employee base. I don't know if you know this kind of person.
Yeah.
But, and he was the best. But what happens is you get old. And so my great ability has been, working with people. And I didn't want to work 70, 80 hours a week. So I ended up working 78 hours a week in order to build a company, that had people that could do all the things. And so, it's a lot of work to get past the sole proprietor into that employee space. But I think if you're going to go, you should go all the way. Don't just have 4 or 5. I mean, I know every business is different and get to your sweet spot. But I mean, for me, being that kind of having 2-3 employees, everything kind of felt like mom, dad, like you always had to lead from the front. You couldn't go off and do something else. And everyone's kind of one-on-one, where once I got to 10, 15 employees, all of a sudden they're kind of hanging with each other and they create this energy. And it's actually, I found it much easier for me to run a larger company than a smaller company.
Well, that's interesting
because it's easier to kind of get the team spirit going. Does that make sense?
Right. Yep, definitely. And you have enough critical mass to build a culture out.
Yeah. And I forgot the details of the business. I mean, took over in 2016, and we had 2 employees. I've probably.
How are you marketing at that point?
Well, so here's the business model is basically we work with a factory to make our chocolate into chocolate bars. And the secret is actually on the farm. It's the post-harvest. So it makes the flavor of chocolate. It makes or breaks it. So we do the post-harvest and then send it over there. And then we have a farm tour, and we give people chocolate on the farm tour. Then they buy chocolate, and then we have an online store. So honestly, like the extra margin of the farm tour is what's allowed me to do what I do, because we can't play the commodity game here in Hawaii. I mean, our cost base is tremendous since becoming a state. I mean, forget about it. You can't compete. And nor do we want to sell that low quality chocolate that goes into candy bars. We want to, I don't know if you're familiar with the wine industry, but we'd rather be Napa Sonoma than the Central Valley, right? We'd rather be Burgundy than the Languedoc, right? We don't want to produce bulk mass because we have a lot of terrain. We can't mechanize, and we don't have a big capital base to start with. No one really knows what they're doing. So anyway, 2016, I took over. 2017, we got selected top 50 best in the world at the Cocoa of Excellence Awards. I went to Paris. I'm there in Paris looking at the Eiffel Tower, looking around at all these chocolate people thinking, wow, I just did this. I took over because frankly, I had to pay the mortgage. You know what I mean? It was do or die. And I took on a bunch of stuff and difficult stuff. And then I was looking around in Paris saying, wow, what if I actually worked on this? What if I could unleash the true power of Hawaiian agriculture again? We were the best in the world at pineapple and sugarcane in the 60s and 70s. We sold all the technology, and then those companies just all went overseas. I mean, same companies. They just shipped the trucks to the Philippines. And what would happen if we woke up American agriculture to these really orphan crops that are grown in these very remote rural places by very poor people? What if we grew them in the United States and we could make a high value of chocolate? I mean, look what happened to beer, to cheese, to wine. I mean, the spread between the cheapest bottle of wine and the most expensive bottle of wine is like thousands of percent. Well, look at bourbon, that's what we're trying to do, specialty, because Hawaii really we can't be that commodity producer anymore. We have to be a specialty producer. So think pounds, not tons, and think suitcase exports. You control the retail and you control the value of the retail. And then we're selling, like we have about 300 people through our farm and our farm store in the town every day. And we give them a little piece of chocolate and they say, wow, most of them say, wow, that's the best chocolate I ever tasted. And I'm going to buy some. And they got a free sample, so they're likely to buy something. And that's how we pay the bills. And we want to change the way the world tastes chocolate. I mean, I wish you could all taste it so you'd get it. What we're doing here at Lydgate Farms, but it's not bitter. It's not astringent. It has fruity flavors and floral flavors, and it's a whole different kind of chocolate that we produce here right in the United States.
It's really the only place in the U.S. that you can grow cacao, right?
Yeah, it's the only state. We like to say that's the only state. There's a few territories you can do it in.
Obviously, you're in Hawaii, but what island of Hawaii are you in? And is there quite a bit of difference between them?
I'm on the island islands? Kaua'i, Kaua'i. We are on the east side, right behind the Sleeping Giant. And managing 46 acres here. I got about 30 employees, and we're doing it.
And you got hilly terrain, as you said. Is it kind of mountainous or just?
Yeah, it's I think more foothills. There's this area called Olahena, which has 8 or 9 of these big, if you look from the air, big rolling hills. Elevations of maybe 400 feet, and it, maybe dips. The hills are maybe, I don't know. You'd have to come out here. They're not. Some of them get steep, and there's water, a lot of water. There's underground rivers just come out of the ground. I mean, there's a lot of water here. Yeah.
And so going back, the global industry of cacao, as you were saying, it's run by big plantations, a few players around the globe, very, very large land bases and businesses.
Well, I want to clarify a little bit of that. So most cacao farmers have like 1,000 trees. I think because 70% of the cacao in the world is grown in the Ivory Coast. And these farmers have basically backyard, 5 hectares, or even 2 hectares, I think might be the average. We can look that up, and I'm sorry I forget, but enough for a family to take care of. So the deal is it is controlled by a few people, but those are the people that control the price. So if you live in rural West Africa, and then there are cacao plantations, large ones in places like Brazil and Ecuador. And that's the place where they have real plantation agriculture. But most of it's this kind of very subsistence ag. The guy with the bicycle, you sell to the guy with the bike, who sells to the guy with the motorcycle, who sells to the guy with the car, who sells to the guy at the city, who sells to the person in the port, who sells to Nestle or Cargill or Blomers or Calabo. But there's only one price, and they tell you what the price is, and it's set by the government. And so the farmers just get you can imagine.
Yeah. So it's a very fragmented business.
Yeah, that's right. And, unfortunately, most cacao, the farmers are not rewarded for quality. The price recently went up, tripled. And that's actually...
What was that due to?
It's actually hurt quality. So,
really?
It hurt quality because now it's even less important. So
they're going to sell everything they can.
Yeah. So give you an example. Some people say, we harvest cacao every 2 to 3 weeks here because that's when the fruits are ripe. If you let them go longer than 4 weeks, they'll get overripe, they'll be sprouted. And then 5 weeks, they might start to turn color, black. These places, they harvest twice a year. You understand? So they take everything. We're talking like black, diseased, dead, overripe, ripe, underripe. They take everything. Just twice a year, they just come take it. What? You know what I mean? And then because they're only paid for the weight and the value, a lot of the value of cacao is in that cocoa butter, the fat that's in there. And that's what these companies want. So the cocoa butter can be deodorized and you can roast cacao very dark. And, this level of cacao, that's 95% of all the chocolate in the world. And this is really not very good.
So it's a lot like the coffee industry was maybe 20 years ago.
Boom. It's like Robusta coffee. It's like the Folgers coffee. Coffee is a perfect analog.
So like coffee, you have Robusta and you have what's Arabica. So is that similar in cacao as well? Or is there just basically one variety that?
It's a little more subtle. I mean, the tricky thing with cacao is that any cacao can make a pretty good chocolate. That's actually not true. There's some varieties that maybe don't have as good of a taste, but so much of it is in the post-harvest. So rather than go down
So what's that look like?
rather than go down the genetics rabbit hole, which gets really complicated, and I might lose everybody really quickly because there is an impact to the final flavor, but post-harvest is bigger. And so post-harvest, on the day of the harvest, you take the wet seeds. So inside these fruits are seeds covered with sweet pulp with sugar. They go into big boxes, and then local yeasts convert sugar into alcohol, and then that there's lactic acid bacteria, and then the alcohol is converted into vinegar by acetic acid bacteria, gluconobacter, things like that. The acetic acid, the vinegar, permeates the testa, the inside of the cotyledon, basically, which is purple, and it cooks it. Like making ceviche or poisson cru, you put lime juice on fish, it'll cook it, right? So the same thing, the acetic acid cooks it, turns it from this kind of slaty, purple, bitter thing into like a purplish brown thing that's not bitter and tastes like fruity and good. And so that's specialty. Then you dry it. While you're drying it, those acids are still in there, so you're still curing it. There's like a cure. It's maybe 2 weeks, and then you dry age it for 3 months to further volatilize some of the those volatile compounds that balance the flavors. And I mean, we're really using oxygen, right? And that's how you make cacao that'll win like a gold at Cocoa of Excellence Awards, which we won in 2023.
And you said you're harvesting every 2 to 3 weeks. Is that year round?
Year round.
Okay, so once you get a plant going, what's that? Is it 2 to 3 years before you start getting some production?
Yeah,
off
you'll
of
get maybe if you go well, you'll get a fruit at like 18 months or 20 months. But really, you're not going to see much for 3 years. Your ROI is probably 5 years, and then peak harvest is like 8 years.
Now, do you have aspirations to grow your operation beyond the number of acres that you currently are at, or are you really just focused on growing?
Yeah,
value?
absolutely. Yeah, we'd love that. I mean, I think we have a proven process. We know if we give people our chocolate, we know how much they're going to buy, and so a lot of the retail store is really just about foot traffic. And so we could have more retail stores, but to do that, you need more chocolate. So like, it's not like the accounting side of this business isn't just like costs and, revenues. It's also like, beans in and out. And, we can purchase beans from a few farmers, but it's quality Hawaiian cacao is very hard to access right now. So there's a real high bar to entry in the industry because you just have to be from here or know somebody, or you could come in and be really cool, but it would take you 5 years. And you'd have to not, most people people don't want to spend 5 years to like get to know the Hawaiian business environment. Typically there's cheaper ways to make money, right? Buy Bitcoin or whatever. There's not a lot of people who want to do this, but anyway, my hope is that everything continues to go and, we just, keep on enjoying our privilege here, being in this paradise place for producing chocolate, and we figured out a way to do it, and the people love it, and we're winning awards. And now what we want to do is let people know the United States produces some of the best chocolate in the world. So the Hawaiian Islands produce 1/10,000th of the world's cocoa supply, but we've won more gold awards in Europe at the Cocoa of Excellence Awards in Paris, Rome, Amsterdam than any country in the world. So Hawaii, the best cacao in the world, is coming from the Hawaiian Islands now. Like I had this dinner in Portugal with these port wine people, the whole port. They've been making a lot of money forever, right? And so this guy's saying, hey, the best cacao in the world comes from Hawaii. I was like, wow, I better go home and tell people. Nobody knows. So I think that's my career, honestly. Like my career is letting people know. And I think in 20 years, if I do a good job, maybe everyone will know.
So you're doing that, as you said, through the farm tours. Was that something that you started when you came back to the farm, or is that something?
No, we have been doing tours since the beginning. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, since about 2007.
Are you looking at building that business out more, adding ancillary things like restaurants or that type of thing as well?
I think
Airbnbs, those.
We're looking at some confectionery. Bonbon Chocolat, where and that'll be down in town. I think get commercial space. There's certain things you can do on our ag land, but there's certain things it's just helpful to have the sewer and the power and the stuff. There's but yeah, we'll likely get into some confectionery, bonbons, and I'd love to do ice creams. We also produce a lot of vanilla. So
on your farm.
Yeah, we have a lot of vanilla on the farm. It's vanilla, honey, and chocolate are really our main revenue drivers.
And you do have a lot of other exotic fruits on your farm as well, correct? You want to talk a little bit about that, how that came to be?
Yeah, well, we're fruit lovers. Hawaii has the biggest, greatest biodiversity of tropical fruit in the world because we're affluent and we're collectors. So, a lot of places have a lot of tropical fruit, but they don't have the stuff from the other tropical places. So we bring things back here. People collect rare fruit. And so we have probably 50, 60 incredibly interesting fruits you maybe never had or heard of. Soursop, acerola cherry, Verlinia, egg fruit, sapote, chiku. I mean, these incredible fruits, acerola, I may have said, and grumichama. And so, and then things like pineapple and mango and, passion fruit, lilikoi. So most of these fruits go to serve our tours. So, and a lot of it's there and you pick it. And I wouldn't call us really producers.
Not really commercial scale.
A few trees of each. So it's not, no, but we do use them as amenities and they do get consumed, by the visitors.
Well, what's your biggest challenge that you face in building your business as you kind of vertically integrate more?
I mean, I'm not a big fan of some of the tariffs. We have a few items of packaging that we use for our value added, and frankly, they just don't make those things in the U.S. And it takes 5-6 months to order them from overseas. So it's one of these things where it's like we didn't really have a chance to source an alternative. I mean, if it was going to be like, hey, everybody, we want to not use Chinese goods. Make sure the goods can be first United States and give me a couple of years to change over my retool. And like that whole thing happened like that. So I'm hoping that'll change quick. Something's going to change. And then, just general challenges of running a business. We're at the point where it's time to kind of take it to the next level with the accounting. And so, I did all the bookkeeping, for the first 7 years or so, but and you got to do that, right? You need to, if you don't understand your cash flow, you can't outsource that from day one, I think, or you're gonna be dead. But I'm at the point now where it's too complicated. I had to hire people, so just creating that, the bookkeeper, the controller, the CFO, that's a new system that we just created. So just really getting that so it's running as tight as some of our operations are running, because our operations are real tight, and we just hire good people. Yep. We have a great time, and core values have been a big part of that. So yeah, it's like how can I take that to this next level, and building out the finance side of the business, the back office, so that we can grow.
Where do you were talking about growing into confectionery and those sort of things? Where do you see your business going in 5 years from now? What are you hoping to see?
There's an opportunity, and I want to take advantage of that opportunity, and I think Hawaii is a place that really lost a lot of its agriculture. So I'd like to see, more cacao. I'd like to see more vanilla. I'd like to see us, getting more visitors, through our tours. I mean, and I think, you might have to spread out to other islands. Kaua'i has 1.2 million a year. I think Oahu has 6-7 million. Maui has 3-4. Big Island has 1 or 2. So, right now we've had about 100,000 people through the tour. And what we realized was the main thing that happens on the tour is, you might not remember everything, but you remember like, oh, I remember I liked that chocolate. And like, I remember I don't like that chocolate. It messes you up. We basically ruined cheap chocolate for people because they realize like, oh, I thought I didn't like dark chocolate because it was bitter. Turns out I just don't like this
junk chocolate,
this crap, unripe crap or whatever, this, right? So we kind of mess with people. We call that changing the way people taste chocolate. So we've had 100,000 people through. I mean, I'd love to have 1 million people have that experience of like, oh, wow, that was really different. Like, here's a piece of commodity chocolate. Here's a piece of specialty chocolate. Do you taste the difference? I mean, the truth is, it's a miracle that everyone can eat chocolate. Should chocolate be a cheap commodity? I mean, it's a special thing. Why does it have to be so cheap? Like, the truth is, we did a really good job with our industrial food system, but the food isn't quite as good. I mean, and are we surprised? Like, we haven't had a famine in a long time. It's a miracle. You can get bananas in Minneapolis in February. Hallelujah, that they're not as good at bananas is the kind of thing everyone's realizing. And you come to Hawaii, it's like, oh, those bananas are better. It's like, yeah. So that's kind of our thing, to show people what's possible here. So, I mean, I think we had 10 million people have that experience with chocolate. I think we changed the whole world. I think all of a sudden the whole market tips and everyone's looking for good chocolate. I want to show people that chocolate can have just as much value as a big bottle of bourbon, bottle of champagne, a bottle of Burgundy, or anything. And chocolate, here's the thing, there's no mothers against chocolate eating. Mormons eat it. You know what I mean? Kids eat it, right? It's a positive thing. There's no negative, but it makes you feel good too. It has alkaloids in it.
It's still an indulgent experience that you don't have to feel too bad about, right? And
yeah, I mean, sort of like what coffee is, except what a lot of people can't drink coffee, right? So I think it's chocolate is so universal and beautiful, and frankly, if I were to be extra grandiose, I would say, that experience is available for a lot of other things. I gave bananas as an example. You've had bananas your whole life, but when you come to the tropics, we have like hundreds of varieties of bananas. So why not, do the same thing?
Commercially, what's there 2 varieties of bananas that get exported around the world?
Cavendish and Bloom, and then we all know exactly what that flavor is, and have it come to my farm, have an apple banana, and you'll go, oh wow.
Yeah, I spent a bit of time in Vietnam and had some fresh fruit while I was there, and fruit that I've had in other places, and I had never experienced those type of flavors out of that same fruit before. So that's where I really understood that. You hear it, but when you taste it yourself, of what that is really like, if it's just picked fresh, that exotic fruit that you don't normally get fresh.
Well, I think it's the whole like shelf stability is counterindicated with flavor. I mean, I think for your plant
very inverse.
we told all our plant breeders to have we want shelf stable and we want big, and those two things are counterindicated to flavor, right? So we kind of did it to ourselves. I think the game is going to change, but it's going to take 10, 20 years for the plant breeders to. I'm not talking about the mainland. I don't think anyone's doing that in the tropics.
Yeah, I think we hit the point where we hit the Green Revolution right after World War II, and everyone just wanted food because they didn't want to be hungry. And we're getting to the point where, we got peak population, and now we're really looking at, especially in more affluent countries, looking at quality much, much closer. And I think we're just at the tipping point.
You really get it. So, yeah, it's incredible. But now the new luxury is food that's as fresh as if it were picked that day, but anytime, right? Like the best of the seasonal thing, but whatever, on the street corner, you know what I mean? So it's yeah, you put it perfectly. It's like we start off with like everything's seasonal, but like we're dying all the time, and like I don't want to eat this root for 3 months out of the year. But everyone imagines that was great. We're talking about how great cavemen's lives were, dying of a tooth abscess. But cavemen were healthy, right? No, they weren't. And then you go to agriculture, and now we're just starving all the time. You know what I mean? Everyone gets like a foot shorter. Talking 10,000 years ago. You know what I mean? Because and then all of a sudden, like you said, we get modernization, industrialization. Now we got tons of food, and now we're actually we're the best fed, most nourished. Like we're eating better than kings 150 years ago. Everybody is, and then we're complaining about it, which is hilarious, right? Haven't had a famine in Hawaii since 1830s, right? We're not going to have one. It's a miracle. People forget. So, and now we're entering into this new era where real luxury is that truly fresh, truly, and that's the space we operate in.
Yeah, and that in what you said, the high cost environment, that's really probably the niche that makes the most sense. You can't compete with people that are willing to live off a few dollars a day.
And I think that's unfortunately or fortunately, that's the reality of Hawaiian agriculture now, is that I don't think we can really, with certain exceptions and at scale and on places like Central Oahu where it's all flat, I don't think we can really grow food to feed our population. I think we should focus on export crops to bring in revenue. And yes, we should have some food, but I mean, I don't know, 10, 20% of our own food supply. I don't think you want to produce 100% of your own food supply.
It'd be pretty tough in that environment.
Yeah. And it'd be 10 times the cost. And then what happens if there's a storm or something? You want to have that stuff coming in, right?
Right.
Also, now that I'm on my soapbox, what is it, like 5 times more, like a backyard gardener, like a yardener, it's like 5 times more carbon or whatever for them to produce food than it is for a conventional farmer to do it. I just think it's like the most hilarious things. Everyone's like, yeah, we should all grow our own food. And then they're like, oh, wow, this is hard. Yep.
They understand the why it takes so much to get that to market.
Yeah, and why, you really want to ask farmers what they need. And my experience, farmers are the best people out there. And and they're good people, and they care about the land, and they know more about the land than you do. And and so give them options, give them chances. Don't limit them, support them.
Obviously, with cacao being a hand-picked or hand-harvested product, is labor pretty tough on that end, on the farm side of things for you guys? Or
I think labor's real tough here in general, and I think you really have to be. It's a seller's market, and so people have choices, and I mean the minimum wage here is really $22 an hour effective. Like you can't get anybody under 20 an hour here, and even if you want to get H-2As, they're 30 whatever an hour. Or 50 if you just want to get a couple of them. And so we love hiring local people. We pay good, and we have, full health insurance, acupuncture, massage, full suite of anything from Costco. We got in the break room. You can eat, microwave it or eat it, ice cream, espresso. So I think labor is really tough. And I think it's tougher here because especially our growth really came out of the pandemic. I started growing really after the pandemic, and I just came out of that labor market where, so I think we positioned ourselves aggressively we really want to know, well, here's our value proposition, and our value proposition to work here has to be competitive. It's not like there's, hey, I really need a job and we're going to exploit you or whatever. Probably fortunately we don't have that. So yeah, it's a miracle if you hire one good person a month, if you need to hire. The miracle.
And you said you're running about 10 to 12 people right now?
The whole employee base is 30. I think running the farm is like 7.
Okay. And the rest of it's on around
border,
the
yeah.
hospitality.
Probably
business.
the biggest part of the sales team is the biggest team. We call them front of house. People who do tours, people who do, about half our revenue is tours.
Interesting. How do you market the tour side of things?
Online. It takes a while to just get your presence known. So the real secret is to just be consistent and be really good. And then, review sites are big. We're the number one visitor activity in the Hawaiian Islands on TripAdvisor.
Really?
Not like Volcanoes National Park, but like a guided tour. We're number one. I think it's overall things to do in Hawaii. I think we're number 11 or something.
Wow, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. I think, my performance background helped, I think, on that. But the secret is you feed people chocolate. They really like it. And just, you got to over deliver. If we're talking entrepreneurs, under promise, over deliver, right? Yeah. All day under promise, over deliver, create value. The whole thing about value. I heard Warren Buffett step down. He was a value guy. He wasn't going for short money. He's going for long money. What is money? Money is about value. Do something that someone said, wow, that made my life better. People are really interested in food, and especially right now, more so than ever. I love it. Michael Pollan, I think somebody said our the amount of time that we spend cooking and preparing our own food is inversely proportional to the amount of time we spend watching people cook food on the internet. You know what I mean?
I haven't heard that one, but yeah, I get that.
Like everyone used to just like make sandwiches and stuff, and now nobody does that. But now everyone will watch you, like watch a video of someone making a grilled cheese or something. What is that? There's some like drive, like instinctual drive,
I think that bodes very well for the business that you're pursuing, right?
I think so. Yeah. I think we're entering into, it's the first time in my life I've had this kind of opportunity where there's a wave that was building and we had a chance to like, if we paddle, I think we can catch this. I don't think it's crested yet for chocolate, for food.
I think it's just getting started.
I think it doubles down. I think the next generation doubles down even more. And what you predicted, what you said, I think that happens even more. And eventually, like, I'm imagining like Mad Max and like a blueberry is like the most valuable thing in the world or whatever. You know what I mean? Like farmers become like farmers were all originally the richest people. And then I think it's going to end up like that as well. Yeah.
It's going to come full circle.
Yeah, that's right.
So before we end here, what's one piece of advice that you have for anyone that's doing entrepreneurship in agriculture?
Read a book called Blue Ocean Strategy. I forget who read. You know that book?
Yeah, I've read that. I'm trying to think who the author was.
Easy to find him. And the idea is Blue Ocean is the red ocean is everyone's fighting sharks, right? Blue Ocean is an opportunity. Find a niche, find something no one's doing. People aren't that creative, especially a lot of these people come out of these MBA programs. They all do the same thing. They'll do the safe thing. Don't do the safe thing. Do something cool and different that only you can do. If you can start a craft beer company, like look what happened with beer, all these new beer companies, like beer was set, but no, it forgotten. It had become generational. Everyone likes to throw their parents' generation under the bus. Find some way to throw the old generation under the bus, do something new, and find your own niche and then just own it. And I think that's the best advice. Create value for others. The whole thing is if you create massive value for others, it's inevitable. You're going to become very successful. And scarcity creates value. For ag, I think that's the real struggle is how do you create the scarcity? How do you be a price maker, not a price taker?
Yeah, get out of that commodity mindset.
You really want to be a price maker.
Yeah, definitely. There's, like you said, it's blue ocean.
Yeah, you talk to me, you're going to get specialty ideas.
Yeah, I really appreciate Will spending a few minutes with us today and talking to us about cacao and about your business and what you're doing there in Hawaii and Hawaiian agriculture. So thank you so much for sharing.
It was an absolute pleasure.
And then we'll put a link to it, to your website in our show notes for you as well.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
People can come find you if they're heading to Hawaii. And if I head to Hawaii,
please.
I'm going to be definitely looking you up.
Mahalo. Yeah, please do.
All right. Well, that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed my conversation that I had with Will. He is a very interesting guy, very interesting business. And we're going to put a link to his stuff in our show notes so you can find him. If you venture out to Hawaii for a visit, you can check out his farm and get to see and taste some of the fine chocolate that he is making. Now, as always, if you found this episode valuable, please share it with somebody that you know that also would find this of value. And as always, if you would be so kind as to leave a rating and review on whatever platform you're listening to this on, we appreciate it. I really enjoy getting to see some of the comments that people have left. And this is also how we share and grow our audience as well. So we don't do any advertising. We just put this out there and you guys spread the word. So until next week, I'm Paul Windemuller, and thanks again for listening to another episode of the AgCulture Podcast.